All right, here we are behind the table with the incredible, the indelible Sunny Hostin. How are you, Sunny?
I'm well. I do have a jewelry tip for you
let's go.
after.
Sure, we were discussing jewelry for anybody, maybe.
We were for Mother's Day. It's a Mother's Day gift for Heather,
could be.
right?
She doesn't watch the podcast. Yes, it could be.
It's go vintage with it.
Yeah.
Vintage pieces because it's sustainable and it's less expensive.
You know, I like a surprise. My wife likes particular things. How are you on that?
I don't love being surprised because I don't have a good poker face, as everyone knows. And so if I don't like it, I can't say, "Oh, I love it."
Right.
I don't do that. So
My wife doesn't even try the "oh, I love it." She just is kind of direct.
Yeah, I try it and then it doesn't work, and then I hate the way people feel.
Yeah.
So actually, I don't open up gifts in front of people.
Interesting.
Yeah, I haven't done that for years.
All right. Well, we'll talk more off camera.
Okay.
But here we are behind the table.
Because I'm grateful that they've given me something.
Well, there you go.
And I don't want them to feel terrible.
And my wife is also grateful. So I'm only teasing. All right. So yesterday and today on the show, we've been talking about looking back on President Trump's first 100 days in his second term. How the time has flown by. His approval rating is at an all-time low. And you said the Democrats need to get out of the Republicans' way. What did you mean by that?
Look, we have all these postmortems still, even after the first 100 days. What can the Democrats do better? What should the Democrats do? I'm thinking just get out of their way. Let them do what they're doing. And we see it in the approval ratings. We see it at the town halls. Americans are finally catching up to the fact, especially those that voted for him, my goodness, I was misled. I was lied to. And I think the best thing that Democrats can do is hold their own town halls, give space for people who did vote for this president to come in and say, you know what, I voted for Trump and I was misled. And I think the response is you were lied to, you were misled. Welcome back.
You're very forgiving. You're happy.
Welcome to the opposition party.
Well, it's interesting because we have a question here actually that is basically this. It's from Chance in Miami. And Chance says, Sonny, how can Democrats win back the moderate and independent voters?
Okay, well, my thoughts on this.
Yes.
There are no true independent voters. When you look at a Gallup poll, for example, but there are many polls, it's something like 47% of independents always vote Democrat and 46% of independents always vote Republican. So there's a very
there are unicorns. There are small percentages
group
of people that are genuinely conflicted.
A small number of unicorns. And so I just don't think that's the play. I don't think the play is also the imaginary magical moderate that's somewhere in the Midwest that cares about these kitchen table issues.
But you do buy that people could have been fooled.
Oh, I think people were lied to and misled, and I think people didn't read Project 2025, and they didn't buy into, wow, things are getting real. What he's saying is true. I think the better play is to play to the base, the people that understand what was at risk, voted accordingly, voted in the interests of other people, even if it wasn't in their own self-interest. And then I also think the play is growing that base, because if you really think about it, about 40 million people stayed home. Those are the people I want to talk to. Why did you stay home? Let me energize you. Let me tell you why your vote is so important. What is the issue that is important to you? And let's talk about how the Democratic Party can address that particular issue. That's the play. The play, in my opinion, is certainly not let's go for these imaginary magical moderates or let's go for the independents.
Okay. So you don't buy into the idea
Politics by Sunny.
You don't buy into the idea that the Democrats went too far left and that's why we lost people.
No. Too far left. Please don't take Social Security away from seniors who and that money belongs to them. Is that so progressive? Please don't take away Head Start for our children and universal pre-K. Is that really leftist? I mean, the notion that Republicans were, campaigning on communism and socialism, that's just not true. Those are, again, the lies that were fed to people. Like, we're only going to touch the undocumented people here that are criminals. And what we're seeing now is, no, actually even naturalized citizens and American citizens, U.S.-born citizens, are being deported along with their undocumented mother. Everyone is at play. So, for me, no, I don't believe in any of that.
The other thing we've been talking about on the show this week, oddly, because it's about to be May, is football. We've been talking a lot about football this week. I know. The NFL draft and Coach Belichick, who I'm going to come back to you on. But I want to talk about this because yesterday the Philadelphia Eagles went to the White House to celebrate their Super Bowl win.
Some of them went.
A notable number of Eagles players weren't present during the team's visit to the White House, including quarterback, MVP of the Super Bowl, and a friend of the View, someone we've caught passes from.
I wore his shirt, everybody.
Yes. Jalen Hurts.
I chose his shirt.
Who did not go and just cited a scheduling conflict. So
it was the best.
That's the best.
You
like
reason.
that. You like that better than saying, and we don't know that he had ideological issues with the presidency.
No.
But
had a scheduling conflict. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has an all-female management team. That says a lot. Mm-hmm. He's diplomatic. He's a quarterback. He's smart. He was asked on the Time magazine red carpet, are you going to the White House? And he didn't respond. And you know what? No response is a response. Silence speaks volumes. I don't know what his political ideology is. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he takes issue with any of Trump's policies, but he wasn't there because he had a scheduling conflict. And what a wonderful reason to provide. And I hope the scheduling conflict was perhaps helping underserved communities, helping children. Maybe he was spending time with his new wife. Whatever the scheduling conflict was, he had it.
Now,
and I like that.
Many stars of the team didn't go, including Jalen and A.J. Brown and a few others.
Did they have scheduling conflicts as well?
I believe they did. We also talked about Bill Belichick's bizarre interview on CBS News where his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, who's 24 years old, as keeps getting mentioned.
Yes.
Coach Belichick is in his 70s.
Yes. 71, I believe.
Yeah. She kept interfering in the interview, reportedly, and wouldn't let certain questions be asked. Yes. He's one of the most powerful and smart men in football.
50 years of coaching experience.
Yes, and considered potentially the greatest coach of all time.
Yes.
Again, I'm a Giants fan, so I have mixed feelings.
I am as well, but I mean, the stats speak for themselves.
He's 73. I'm seeing here actually.
Oh, 73.
73 years old.
Oh.
But it's a little confusing for people to see him kind of.
So he's almost 50
being
years older.
influenced this strongly by a 24-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah.
What do you think is happening here?
Wow.
And do you love it for him?
Hey, if he loves it, I love it for him.
Yeah, God bless if he's happy. But could you ever? Let's talk about age differences. Because I asked this, I think we had Alyssa yesterday, and I asked her about it. Have you dated anyone much older, much younger?
No.
Do you think you could?
No.
50 years too much?
Yeah, again, if you love it, I love it for you.
Okay.
I would not love that for my children.
Right.
I think.
And you have a son that's almost 24 now. Yeah, like
22.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to age him up, but
22.
It's in the ballpark.
But I can't imagine my son
coming home with a 70-year-old.
Coming home with a 73-year-old. Mm-hmm. I think that you rob yourself of your young adulthood. And I kind of look into the future, something like that. I have a very personal experience with my grandmother when 40 married a 20-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And it was fine until she was 60 and he was 40.
Yeah.
And then it was really bad when she turned 80 and he was 60. And he left her. Mm-hmm. And she was heartbroken.
Sure.
And moved in with me because he didn't want to spend, his words were, he didn't want to spend the rest of his life taking care of her.
Oh, wow.
Because he had more years behind him than he had in front of him.
Sure.
And to see my brokenhearted grandmother die with a broken heart. She died shortly after he left her. Mm-hmm. I will, of course, never speak to him again. Our family cut him off, but I have strong feelings about it. And so
understandable.
when I look at that kind of relationship, 24-year a 24-year-old and a 70, let's say 4-year-old. It's a 50-year difference. Maybe it's okay now when she's 34 and maybe wants to have children and he's 84.
Yeah.
That's problematic.
Yeah, it does happen still. But
it does happen. And let's say this, when she's 44 and he's 94, what does that look like? And I wouldn't want it for my children.
Now, looking at it from the other angle, there are people that are saying that she has to be after his money, she has to be after the fame, she has to be after that. But is it possible to just respect someone that is a genius, that is accomplished, and have that make up for the difference of age and everything else? And could she legitimately be attracted to the person?
I think you can. I think you can seriously be attracted to someone's brain, and someone's mind, and someone's spirit. But the reality of age is the reality of age. I mean, we're all going to die. We're all going to age. Yeah. I'm fighting it.
Successfully, I'll say. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm fighting age.
Yeah.
But, it's just a truism. So I don't think it's a great idea.
It is something you can't really comprehend at 24, I think. It's something you really only start to think about when you do have more days ahead behind than ahead.
Yeah. And I've just seen it up close and personal.
Yeah.
And it generally doesn't end well.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of things that didn't end well, the NFL draft. We talked about this the other day.
Oh, yes.
So yesterday we talked about the surprising story of Shador Sanders, who many were questioning why he was falling in the NFL draft. And there are a lot of theories about it. It ended with the Cleveland Browns selecting him in the 5th round.
Yeah.
People were questioning if overconfidence was to blame. We talked about that yesterday. You said people are conflating arrogance with confidence.
They are.
And you said something that you've tried to teach your own children is that they belong in all spaces.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about that.
Look, I think that when you are a parent, you must, the world is going to tear your kid down. It just is. The world is a tough place. There are a lot of creeps out there. Yeah. There are a lot of nasty people. And if you can't be your own cheerleader, no one else is going to cheerlead for you. And so I've instilled in my children the notion that they should be their very best, that their average should be excellent, because I know that they're capable. And the most important thing is that they be, of course, kind and empathetic, but confident and self-assured.
Right.
And what I've seen in this world, especially I've seen it myself. I see the social media comments, the few that I look at. I don't look at them very often. Wow, she's so arrogant. And that just sort of feels like you should know your place. You should shut up and dribble. Stay in your lane, as opposed to, no, you're accomplished, you're smart, you're self-assured, and you're confident, and you belong in every single space. And I think what they were doing, for better or for worse, the NFL, is they were trying to humble this young man who is a leader, who was a Heisman Trophy in contention to win a Heisman, who was a Big 12. He won the Player of the Year.
They retired his number in Colorado.
They retired his number. I mean, this is not someone who lacks talent.
No, he's accomplished. And that was
accomplished.
Yeah.
And how dare you try to say, conflate his confidence, which is earned. And it's very hard in this country as a young black man to be able to stand tall like that. And he was able to do that. And they were trying, I think, to humiliate him. And there's no better example of that than the prank call that he got from an Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator's son.
Yeah, that was horrible.
It was horrible. And I can't begin to tell you how many, sons of men that I've worked with that were incompetent, that were arrogant, that were unqualified, and they were only in those positions because of their fathers. And people didn't try to humble them at all. So I question why the NFL did what they did. And I question the reports that he didn't interview well. He probably interviewed with confidence. And I think you want a quarterback with confidence. I met Tom Brady on more than one occasion. he doesn't lack confidence.
No, he does not. I've met him too.
Okay, he doesn't lack confidence, yet he's not called arrogant. I see I'm getting fired up over it because I think there's this double standard that we're seeing. Now, one theory that I heard, which I wonder is true, that Deion Sanders implied that he would like to coach his son in the NFL. And so I wonder if some of the coaches felt that Deion Sanders
I think
maybe they felt threatened, and maybe they felt that Deion Sanders would interfere with the coachability of his son.
Or if you failed at coaching his son, then and you've invested in this talent, the natural thing to do is to replace you with Deion Sanders. I think there's something there.
So that I can live with. If that was part of the equation. I cannot live with people saying that he was too arrogant.
Well, you referenced Tom Brady, and he's an example of another time that potentially that the NFL got it very wrong, and he was
got
drafted later than this.
He sure was. And look at him now.
And I know that he took great pleasure in proving people wrong, and I'm sure if he's given the opportunity, Shador will too.
He absolutely. I'm going to predict that he will be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns sooner rather than later.
All right. I'm excited to see what happens. All right. So we have another question. This is from Annie in Illinois, and it relates to this. Hi, Brian. I'm writing in with a question for Sunny. Okay. Sunny, I just love you on the show, and I think you're an amazing mother.
Thank you.
I'm in need of some advice or guidance on raising my 2-year-old daughter. How do I balance teaching her to be kind and follow the rules, but also teach her to take up space and make sure her voice is heard? Did you struggle with that at all as a mom? I would think you lead by example in those moments, right?
I did. As you know, I believe my parents told me I belong in all spaces.
Yeah.
My parents told me to not lean into beauty, but lean into brains. And that's kind of always been my mantra with my daughter, because it seems to me like when it comes to girls, people say, "Oh, you look so pretty," as opposed to "Look how smart you are."
Yeah.
Right? Look how talented you are. And so I think what you do is you lead by example, but you also tell them, have those mantras and have them repeat it to you. I belong in all spaces. I'm smart. I'm kind. Now I'm sounding like that movie, You Is Kind, but You Is Smart. But I do think our job as parents are to make good, kind human beings. And in order to do that, you've got to give them that rubric. What does smart look like? What does kindness look like? What are your talents? I point them out. The world will tear them down. It's your job to build them up so that they have that confidence when they walk out into the world and the world tells them, you don't look good. You're not that smart. You're this and that. They're playing the tapes in their heads of your voice.
Right.
And that's what I've always done. And it's interesting because I'm also very risk averse. And I tell my son, who's not risk averse, who loves to surf with rip tides and do all these things. We were on vacation recently, and I said, I don't think you should go surfing today. I was reading all of the weather reports, and there's some rip tides in that area. And he was like, I'm fine. I'm big, I'm strong, I'm a certified surfer guy, whatever he is. And he got caught out there, and he was smashed against rocks. And his, I guess the thing that you attach your ankle to with the surfboard got caught. And he said he heard my voice in his head saying, right before he left, I said, be very careful and make sure you take your sister with you. If you're in trouble, start waving your hands. And his sister was on the beach with him. He was waving his hands, and his sister kind of got help for him.
Oh, that's great. But how scary.
So it was very scary. And he said, Mom, you were right. But I was listening to your voice in my head.
How fulfilling that must be.
So it was very fulfilling for me, because it's like, well, at least he listens, right? I mean, he didn't listen and didn't go, but he listened, and he's okay, thankfully. I don't think he will do that again.
That makes 22 years of henpecking him worthwhile.
Yes,
there you go.
I do. I'm a helicopter parent, but I'm trying to make sure that when I'm not here, that they play those tapes in their heads.
Yeah, that's right. No, and I think you instinctively do. I mean, it's.
I do.
You know, no one has a bigger influence on you than your parents.
Than your parents.
Yeah, 100%.
Than your parents, and you got to do that. You got to try to nail that job.
All right. Well, I think you're nailing it so far.
Well,
thank you for joining me.
I've made mistakes for sure.
Well, who doesn't? But
I'm imperfect.
You got a lot to be proud of. Thank you for joining me today, Sonny.
Thank you, Brian.
Tomorrow I'll be back here with Joy Behar, and we will see you then.